Another exciting episode of the 1983 ATC110. Welcome back. This is where we left off. We pretty much done everything that we're going to do to the drive system. I want to say renewing a lot of parts like the pull starter, this piece, the skid plate. It just looks beautiful in there. I mean, that it just shows so well. It doesn't have a dent in it. And this cover here was a big eyesore. It's beautiful now. So I'm still waiting for the CDI unit. So while I am, what I've done is I've used Meguiar's Ultimate Compound, and you can see let's see if where is that towel? You can see the red. So it was quite oxidized, but it sure is shiny now. And I'm going to put a little bit of wax on it and call it a day. It's got a couple scratches, but all in all, for the original condition this bike is in, I'm more than happy to live with it. So we are going to move on to this, and we've got a replacement here that we're going to install, and we're going to install a new top nut here. And these are going to be, the chrome is going to be much better. These have a little bit of pitting on them. And then I'm going to polish these handlebars while they're disconnected. And pretty much everything is in place. So I'm going to leave it that way. This is, again, it's a detail. I guess some people call it a restoration, but I just call it a detail because I'm not painting the frame. I'm not splitting the cases. So let's get that replaced. Okay, so I got my new CDI unit in, and it doesn't seem to be working. So I did my test again. I'll show you that. And so what you do, put your test light in both leads coming out of the stator, and you'll see this, I believe, is the lighting coil. Now it's kind of a dull light, but I think that's the way it's supposed to be. I don't think that's even idle speed. That's probably more like idle speed there. But we're getting juice, that's the point. And I was getting juice out of here, which led me to believe that it was the CDI unit. But look now, I'm not. Oh, now look, a little bit. It's intermittent, so I'm going back to the stator. So it's time to take the flywheel off. I took the nut off. I took the little ring that the pull starter engages on. And let's just see if it'll come off easily. It should. There it is. This is a reverse thread, by the way. Let's get that flywheel out of there. Let's see what we got underneath here. I mean, look at how friggin' new that looks. And it's just really, really clean. I don't know why this would not be working right, but we're going to check it all out. So we're going to do the continuity tests and so forth. Now we're going to do continuity test on the coils themselves, which you can't see it, but I'll show you real quick. The two wires, in fact, I'll just bring them over here because I believe we've got a bad coil. All right, there we are. There's the wire. I'm going to bring this up a little. So what you do is put the hot on one of these wires that are coming out. It's the positive coming out of here. So when it's running, the energy's running out to these wires. And if there's continuity, that means that the signal that this little tester is sending through here is coming in, and it's going all around those wires and grounding like it should. But when I go to the, that was the lighting side. Now if I go to the engine coil, to the ignition coil side, I'm not getting anything. Now let's see if there's continuity between the wire and the coil. Perhaps I'm lucky and that's all it is. All right, so let's try the yellow one. It's a lighting coil. We're getting continuity at the ground, so we're going to get continuity at the wire. Right here is where the wire comes in for the ignition coil. We're getting continuity, but we're not getting it past the coil. So the coil's bad. Coil's bad. Better get Chico on that. I'm going to have to get Chico to order me a coil there. They make some Chinese coils that I'm going to probably try, but I do have in the boneyard a few. I've got a few. I've got another 110, and I'm going to do a test out there before I pull it and just see if it's good. If it's good, I'll swap it. All right, well, we have found the problem. What I have done here is I just logged onto a forum and there was a really, really good instructional breakdown. And so to put it in a nutshell, this plug right here going to the CDI has all the wires going to the harness. It goes to the switch, it goes to the coil, it goes to the stator. And so what they were recommending doing is getting my reading from here. Before, I was getting my reading from the yellow and the red wire coming right from the stator, and it all checked out ohms wise. The ohms were fine. And then when I did the similar thing with the pickup coil, or I'm not sure what they call it, but it's the part that goes on the head with the little trigger, that the ohms were correct. And I tested right from here that the switch was operating properly. And the coil came up right. But measuring from here gave me the correct ohms coming from the stator. But when I measured it at the plug going to the CDI, it went from 200 ohms down to 2 ohms. So the culprit was this wire. Now, I haven't fixed the wire, and I don't know what the situation was, but I'm going to repair this wire if I find a crack or a break, or I'm going to run it and see if it was maybe touching too close or one of these wires are exposed. I'm not exactly sure. It could have just been in the plug or in this plug, but I really don't care because right now I'm getting spark, and I'll show you what that looks like. All right, let's give it a shot and see if it shows up good enough for you to see. We have spark. So let's put the plug in and see if it runs. All right, let's give her a try. Got the throttle up here. Success. So now that it runs, I've got to focus my attention on the tires. And before I do that, I am going to polish the tank. And you can see how dull that looks. And what I do is I use a little rubbing compound. I'm just using this McGuire's Ultimate. And isn't that interesting that it's got the right color on it? Anyhow, I went from that to that. I got to get down here, but you can see there's some like age cracks. These aren't scratches, they're age cracks. But it shines it up real nice, and I'll put some wax over the top of that. I did do the forks already. So let's get the tank polished, and I may or may not work on the cap right now, but I'll decide that. I really want to get the 3 wheels on it. So it's a lot of extra work trying to save the original tires. So what I'm doing is I put the rims back together, and I've got the tube in there. And so what you've got to do is, it's even more drastic than your, just a normal tube in a dirt bike tire, because this stem wants to go right to the middle. So you got to fill it up, let it out, fill it up, let it out, and you got to fill it up once you've got to fill it up with high enough pressure to seat these beads. So I've done that. I straighten out the stem. I'm going to fill it up, and I'm going to give it like 5 pounds, and that should do it, and hopefully the stem stays. All right, so it's set at 9 pounds, and that was enough, to get everything kind of set. You can see how that stem is aiming towards the center. I can live with that. This isn't standard practice, but I wanted to save the tires. Now, there's one spot here where probably the sun, where this was sitting in the sun, or who knows, but the rest of the tire is okay. And there's cords. It's a 2-belt, so it's not. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take it down to its recommended 2.2 pounds. Maybe give it 3. And then it should be ready to go. So I'm at about 2 pounds. What I would have done differently, and still may do on the rear, is get the kind of stem that's got the nut on either side. And that probably would be a little cleaner look. But with 2 pounds, you can just bend this around. So it's not that big of a deal. So there we are. Let's get this on the front. All right, the axle's mounted. And I always like to show real life restoration. And this is funny. I mean, this happens. So, don't don't kick yourself if it takes you a while, because I've done a lot of these, but this just happens, things on backwards. So I'm going to pull the bolts and put it on right ways. But actually, I might keep it this way, because the guys in Shingletown, they wear those funky hats with the really long brim when they're in their little parade, their little 4th of July parade and Varmint Day. Varmint Day is a big day over there in Shingletown. Joe's usually in his fatigues, and everyone's out in the streets trying to see who can catch more varmints. And this would be good. I think you could actually, scoop up varmints with the front bill of this. Anyway, Joe, tell me if you like it this way. I'm going to turn it around. Got some parts that came in. I've got the air cleaner, and I've got the nice screws that go on the top of the thumb throttle, and I've got a jet. Now, the jet that it calls for is a 38, or at least that's what was in it. But the schematic says, Partzilla says it's a 35. So I've got the extra jet just in case it doesn't run right for some odd reason. So now we're going to tackle the rear wheels. Here they are, all painted. What I did was bead blast them, and I went through the same process that I did with the front. So we're going to let these dry, and then we're going to assemble the rear wheels and get this to a roller situation. So one thing that I did come up with is a subscriber noticed I had a 1983 70 and a 1983 185, and when I'm done with the 110, I'm going to have a 1983 110. So I have a 1984 200S and two 1984 Big Reds, but I ran across another bike and just had to buy it, a 1983 200X. So, like I said, the subscriber noticed I had all these, and he told me that I'm just a couple of bikes away from the complete 1983 lineup. So that's why I bought this one. And what I'm going to do is I'm either going to try and find a 1983 250R, or I'll create an 83 out of this 1980, I believe it's an 82. So, I mean, there's probably very little difference, and I'm going to have to replace everything on this thing anyway. So, you know, it just went from a red motor to a black motor. There may have been a couple of other small differences, but so I have this. So if I were able to make the 250 that I have into a 83 250 with a blue seat and a black motor, I've got the 200X. I don't have the Big Red. I thought I did, but they're 84s. But there again, I might be able to make the 84 on 83, but something tells me that there's a lot of changes in that year, like it has reverse where the other one doesn't. But would that make a difference? No, if I did the stripes on the tank, who would know? And even with the 200 I have, the 200, well, they're calling this a 200. So an 84, they call it a 200S. So, yeah, I just don't know. Or 80, yeah, 84. But I've got this one, I've got this one, and I've got this one. The Odyssey, I don't consider it in the lineup of trikes. But maybe I'll get one of those too. Just depends if things, you know, kind of roll my way. But I just thought it would be interesting to have the complete lineup. And I thank that subscriber for pointing that out. And there is the air cleaner in there with a little bit of Maxima. But it sure looks pretty. I mean, that, God, it just looks new. It's amazing. The parts manager just handed me these. So the chrome is back, and they look really, really nice. Really, really nice. They look great on there. Is it just me, or does this parts manager like sleep all the time? I don't know. I mean, it just seems like it. Maybe we ought to transfer you to Shingletown, and then you can run with all those pit bulls. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and all those, you know, wild dogs and cats and varmints. Yeah, you know, like. So we're getting close to where we're going to have to deal with this part, and that's going to take some work, but I believe I can bring it all back. But what I'm doing now is the rear wheels and tires. I'm doing the same thing I did on the front. I got to hold, you know, there again, if you buy tubes, try and find them with the nut and bolt, you know, the nuts on the stem. If you have the nuts like a regular dirt bike, I think it would just come out better. But this is going together really well. So let's get these two back wheels on it, and then we got a roller. There's the new chrome cap, and there's the grab bar and the rear tail light. And of course I got the wheels and tires on. I believe this one is done. There's really nothing left to do but just drive it around, and I don't want to do that because these tires will get all dirty. I think it's got its spot in the shop here, but it came out very, very nice. It's like an extra nice Survivor. You know, it just doesn't have any wear. And what was wrong with it, I fixed. So it's well, it's another Shingletown circus special. Maybe the circus clowns could ride around on it. A little dull in the lighting here, but you know, it just looks good. I've got really nothing else to do to it, so I'm going to end this video and I'm going to crate this up and send it over to Joe in Shingletown. I know he wants this one, so Joe, this is coming your way. But there it is, it's done. It runs great and it came out super, and I think I'm good with the old tires. I mean, I know you can't find them, so by doing the tubes and bringing it back to, you know, basically original, I believe it's probably got more value. And the wear, like I said, as I'm going through the video, the wear is incredibly low. I mean, it's, if you look, there's the tits still on the tires. That's how much wear this bike has. It's had more problems or more repair done from just sitting than it has from riding. This thing was ridden probably 3 or 4 times and then put in the garage, and that's exactly what they told me when I bought it, that it was ridden a few times and they stored it in the garage for over 30 years. So there it is, all done. So until the next one, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next video, which should be the finishing of the Honda Trail 70 CT70.